Hey folks, so Theo's invited me to this class, and I wanted to give you a few product insights that maybe are useful as you prepare your pitch. So who am I? My name is Raphael. I'm an INSEAD alum, '04, and I've spent a long time at Google. So I ran things like Google Maps and Google Shopping. And I left Google after 14 years, and I'm now doing basically my passion project, which is running product management in Europe. We have a big community of over 20,000 folks who run an annual conference, and actually you see it in the photo there, and really care deeply about advancing product management in Europe. The other maybe relevant and useful thing is I've invested in hundreds of startups, small tickets, but so I see a lot of pitches, and I think I have a big picture overview of what's happening in the market. So this might be useful. I wanted to talk a bit first about product management and what it actually is. I think you all probably know what product is, what product management is. It's essentially a discipline and a craft, and partially an art and partially a science that sits across certain areas, right? And I think customer and user is super important. Every good product starts with having a unique insight about a user need. But there's also business and technology, right? And especially now, since we're talking Gen AI here, technology, for example, plays a big role. And if I explain product management, I like to actually say, there's two spheres of stuff you have to keep in mind. And the first one is, and this is probably the most important one, or the more important one, is building the right product. The second one is build the product right. But the second one doesn't matter if you don't build the right product, right? And building the right product is actually not just having an idea. It's actually really coming up with a research product that where it fits a user need, it actually makes sense, and it grows, right? So this is not something that falls from heaven. It's actually something you can do. And there's a big headline here called product discovery. Discovery already implies, on a quest to find the best product you can find for your users. And again, this is more of a process and something you do and learn over time than something you put on a PowerPoint, right? There's innovation there, there's users there, there's research data, so lots of stuff there. And only once you have done that, you should jump to build the right product. And I think especially in Europe, many people associate product management a bit too much with the second one, because it's then process and running things. But really the more important one is the creativity and the innovation part. So where does AI fit into product? So this is not something that is not exhaustive, right? And you can find 10 more things or 20 more things. But it's just in my head, the way I would roughly put it is across 3 dimensions. The first one is product development, which is the stuff where AI goes into what you do and how you do it. The second one is product features, which is the part where you bring it outside to your users. And the third one is actually in the life cycle. How do you improve your product? How do you stay in touch with your users? And I think AI is so big that it actually can play a role in all of the 3, but they're slightly different, right? So product development, and again, this is once you know what to build. So I think technically you should actually flip the first and the second dimension, because it actually starts with features, but I leave it as this now. There is now the question of, large language models, for example, as one technology in the AI or Gen AI space. But there's also other technologies like machine learning, which has a long history, which has also been very valuable in building products. There's of course data, right? There's getting the right data, having the right data, but also maybe using Gen AI to improve your data sets, right? But it's very important to have data in the first place and use it. Then there's the big topic of code generation, right? There are now kind of reference systems and development platforms where you actually can have this famous copilot that actually builds an app for you or improves sort of features on the app, right? And there's the whole area, that's an area I'm very, very excited about, interface and processes, right? Interfaces, a lot of the technology that we used to build in the last couple of years were kind of islands, right? And it was very cumbersome to build something called APIs, which is sort of interfaces. or any sorts of hooks into other systems, right? If you have a smart agent, if you have a smart technology that can sit on your product and can sort of auto-discover, auto-develop hooks into other systems, right? Now we're suddenly talking about almost, universal capabilities, right? Yeah, not only look for a great, I'm just giving you a B2C example now, you could not only look for a great holiday destination, you could also book a flight, or you could book a hotel and make payments, right? And nobody has to hard code that. That's a huge potential in B2C, but also same for B2B. Think about all those monolithic company systems, right? And what if they suddenly could talk to each other, right? And there's processes, right? And this is things like enabling processes, things you weren't able before, but it's also processes you need, right? If you think about safety, security, data protection, if you build a system, right, that ingests customer data, how does that not, go to other customers, right? There's a huge area around processes that are both enabling but also important for trust, essentially, right? And then I added something I would call magic. This is a placeholder for basically the whole Gen AI revolution, where we're kind of seeing these impressive results that haven't been there before, right? Where you actually could use some of this technology. It's famous that OpenAI was surprised by the capabilities they discovered. And I mean, that type of technology has that type of nature where it's actually quite surprising what they can do. Moving to features, there's the obvious questions of capabilities, right? So what can your product do? What are you focusing on, right? And then in the capabilities, AI obviously can play a big role because it's not hard-coded, right? It has the potential to have feedback loops, to be self-learning, and to really deliver value that hasn't been there before. By the way, this value piece is something you really need to keep in mind, right? And I'll make a point about it in a moment. Not every exciting feature automatically is a product and beyond, right? So think very hard about that piece. I would say it's one of the central pieces. What are you building for whom? And in doubt, it has to be better or faster or cheaper, right? And don't get caught in sort of the noise or hype of things. There's a lot of hype, there's a lot of noise, but a product is more than hype and noise, right? A product needs to be something you build for somebody that has specific value, right? And then I would say there's the whole notion of UI and sort of interfacing with users, and there's a million things to say there, but chat is sort of making a big comeback, either in obviously something like ChatGPT or in agents, but it doesn't have to be like that way, right? You could also think about visual user interfaces, like a mouse, where especially if it's a video or an image, you could do things like where the system just interprets what you do. Voice, I think, is one that will be very, very big very soon. It's the old promise of Siri or the Google Assistant. And then camera, right? If you think about IoT, if you think about Apple Vision and all those cameras that we have around, right? What if you don't even have to tell your product that it should do something, right? What if it just is on your side, right? And there's lots of stuff there and beyond, right? And I want to then also talk about product support, which is really like once it's shipped, like A, how do you stay in touch with the users, but B, maybe even more importantly, how do you create a feedback loop where your product actually becomes better over time by seeing usage, by seeing feedback, by sort of have a feedback loop. And then again, I think instead of in the past where you had almost different silos or different areas, now suddenly your product can become somewhat self-learning. I'll leave it at that. Much more to discuss, but I just wanted to give you sort of my super high-level view on AI and product. And now I want to close with a few best practices, right? Like stuff I would like you to know when you work on your pitch, right? First of all, I said this before, products have to solve a specific customer problem, right? Don't get caught in noise and feature hype. Think very, very hard for whom you're building and what you're building and what the specific value is. This is not a small thing, right? There's a lot of work to get to this point where you actually not just drink your own Kool-Aid, but actually know you have an existing product, right? And then what does success look like once you have the product, right? What does success look for your users and for you, right? And how do you measure that success, right? Successful product should grow, has to grow. How do you measure success, right? And then there's one, and I'm gonna probably in the lecture gonna talk a little bit more about that, but I just want to tease it here. I think many people, if they are approaching exciting area, in an exciting tech area without discipline and experience, they get caught in sort of the feature excitement. And not every idea is a feature. Not every feature is actually a product. And not every product is a business. So what I mean by that is it's very easy to build something that is a toy that is nice. And some toys make it to feature or products in business, but majority not. And it's a very disciplined approach, right? To think about how you will kind of grow in that ladder, right? And why is your idea not just a random feature that, for example, somebody will copy or somebody will integrate into something else, or it's just irrelevant at some point, right? And a product is something sustaining for a specific user where basically they cannot live without, right? Another nice way to put it is a painkiller or vitamin, right? Your product needs to be a painkiller. Otherwise, it's going to be replaced by the next big thing, right? Or the next hype. But many people, if they don't have the experience, jump into an area and then build the first thing they think about or the first thing they're excited about. But in very, very few cases is that really the nucleus of, again, a feature, a product, or even a business, right? The very small percentage of things make it into a sustainable business, right? Related to that, but still different, value creation versus value capture. What I mean by that is, you know, in this explosion of a new cycle, and if in early days in a new cycle, there's a lot of, you know, hype, there's a lot of air, and lots of balls are thrown into the air, but it's not at all clear where the value will aggregate, right? There's value creation for users, for the industry, for the whole ecosystem, but where those value points will capture in the end, right, or be captured, is a completely different question, right? So like a very good way to ask this question is like, why shouldn't your idea end up in Amazon AWS or in a Google Cloud product? Why isn't it going this way? And you have the burden of proof that your idea is actually sustainable and will not end up there, right? Because I think there's a big similarity between this market, the cloud market. That's one of my mental models, right? So where are your unique insights? This could be data, it could be product, could be team, could be experience. And then what's your growth engine, right? Like even if you have initial success, why is this not a small thing? Again, why is it graduating from an idea to a feature to product to business, right? And these are big questions. These are not small questions, right? Finally, I want to close with a deck that just came out a few days ago from Quatu. It's one of the big investors, and they just have a very nice market overview and development. Maybe it's a good way to prime yourself about, you know, the complexity of the space and think a little bit, okay, where you would fit there, right? I think a lot of the obvious ideas are already happening. So again, it's a nice structured analysis of the market and maybe where the product fits. So see you soon in class. I'm very excited about working with you, and then see you soon. Goodbye.